Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Timeline Divergence. Your host, The Drifter. And in this series, we explore the ultimate what-ifs of history, uncovering the lost technologies, forgotten civilizations, and parallel realities that could have been. Today, we are looking at a world where the ancient Byzantine Empire never lost their absolute ultimate weapon. Imagine a hypothetical modern reality in the year 2026, where the legendary liquid flame known as Greek fire was never extinguished by the slow collapse of history. Instead of fading into the dusty archives of forgotten alchemy, this unyielding substance survived and evolved. Picture a thriving global metropolis, not powered by the fragile combustion of fossil fuels or the invisible hum of electricity, but illuminated by colossal, subterranean thermal conduits, flowing with an eternal, emerald, and golden fire. In this parallel timeline, humanity completely bypassed the era of coal. Modern architecture is forged from thick bronze, reinforced basalt, and heat-resistant glass, specifically designed to channel a pressurized liquid that burns even upon the surface of the sea. The oceans are no longer dark barriers, but brilliantly illuminated highways, with massive thermal engines propelling immense vessels through perpetually boiling wakes. In this world, the Dark Ages never truly grew cold or dark, because the light of an undying flame guided human engineering into a terrifyingly beautiful industrial zenith. We are not looking at a world of magic or fantasy. We are looking at a strict, alternative branch of chemical mastery, where a single primordial formula was perfected, protected, and ultimately transformed into the unyielding foundation of all human progress. But look around our modern cities. Our power grids are incredibly fragile. A single severe winter storm can plunge millions into freezing darkness. We rely on invisible currents of electricity and the slow extraction of fossil fuels. To truly understand the monumental power we lost, we must look back across the centuries to the stone walls of Constantinople in the year 673. Imagine standing on the wooden deck of an invading warship in the dead of night. The air suddenly grows heavy, thick with the suffocating smell of sulfur and boiling pine resin. A deafening, mechanical roar echoes across the dark waters of the Bosporus. A pressurized stream of liquid erupts from a heavy bronze siphon mounted on the bow of a Byzantine galley. It strikes the water and does not extinguish. Instead, the ocean itself seems to violently catch fire. The ambient temperature spikes in an instant, searing the skin of sailors 50 feet away. The flames burn with a blinding, terrifying intensity, clinging to the wooden hulls, melting iron armor, and turning the sea into a boiling, inescapable inferno. Splashing water over the fire only feeds the hunger of this chemical beast. For centuries, this incendiary marvel saved a massive empire, but then it simply vanished from the human record. Modern historians and orthodox chemists present a standard, comfortable explanation. Official reports state it was merely a crude, sticky mixture of naphtha and pine sap, pumped through simple hand syringes. They claim it was a primitive weapon, dangerous but entirely mundane. However, surviving documents suggest a far more complex and terrifying reality. Independent researchers and alternative chemists argue that a simple oil mixture cannot adequately explain the spontaneous combustion upon touching water, nor the sheer pressure required to project it over vast distances. Rumors in the historical community heavily suggest the necessary presence of calcium phosphate or quicklime, combined in a highly pressurized, multi-stage thermal reaction. This would require an advanced metallurgical understanding to safely contain the volatile fluid dynamics. Was it just sticky oil? Or did the ancients unlock a profound chemical reaction centuries before the modern era? While these theories lack official verification, the historical coincidence is haunting. We are left with a staggering gap in our technological ancestry. But what if these independent theories were entirely true? Let us assume, strictly as a thought experiment, that this complex chemical formula was the true pinnacle of early thermodynamics. To fracture our timeline, we must understand how it was lost. The disappearance of this profound technology was not a malicious cover-up. It was a tragic consequence of systemic fragility and human limitation. The exact formula was heavily compartmentalized. The empire divided the manufacturing process among separate, isolated artisan guilds to prevent treason and espionage. When the geopolitical borders of the Byzantine state finally began to collapse under relentless siege, the intricate supply chains were permanently severed. The specialized knowledge fragmented. Surviving the ensuing Dark Age prioritized immediate shelter and basic agriculture over the meticulous, dangerous archiving of volatile chemical engineering. The technology was buried because the fragile human systems of the era were terrified of the chaos that would ensue if the formula fell into the hands of a fractured world. The flame died not because it lacked power, but because the society holding it crumbled, taking its greatest secret into the silent grave of history. If we assume as a strict thought experiment that the independent rumors of a self-igniting, water-reacting chemical compound were absolute truth, then the trajectory of human progress fractures instantly. We are stepping into a timeline governed by the laws of advanced thermodynamics a full 1,000 years before our own industrial revolution. This is not a slow evolution, but a sudden and violent shift in how humanity interacts with the elemental forces of the planet. Chapter 1 addresses the hard engineering of this sustained miracle. The core mechanics of Greek fire rely on a highly pressurized, multi-stage thermal reaction. According to advanced chemical studies, the substance was likely a complex blend of distilled naphtha, pine resin, and a critical activator such as calcium phosphide or quicklime. When this pressurized liquid is ejected through a bronze siphon, the friction and the sudden exposure to the moisture in the air trigger an exothermic reaction of staggering intensity. To harness this for more than just warfare, the engineers of this alternate timeline developed high-pressure metallurgy. They replaced fragile clay vessels with cast bronze and reinforced basalt alloys capable of containing internal pressures exceeding 500 pounds per square inch. This mastery of fluid dynamics means that the energy is not just a weapon, but a stable, circulating thermal fuel. By circulating the boiling liquid through a series of heat exchangers, the ancients created a primitive but highly efficient steam turbine system, allowing them to convert the intense caloric output of the chemical flame into mechanical torque. Chapter 2 explores the resource supply chain required to maintain this global energy standard. In our timeline, we rely on deep earth drilling for crude oil. But in this divergent reality, the economy is built on a massive, organic industrial complex. To produce the necessary resins and distillates, humanity has transformed entire coastal regions into managed forests of specialized conifers. Vast chemical processing plants dot the shores of the Mediterranean and the Black Sea, where mineral nitrates are harvested from limestone caves and combined with distilled hydrocarbon oils. This is a circular and highly specialized supply chain. The logistical network is built entirely around the movement of liquids through heavy bronze pipelines, creating a global infrastructure that mirrors the circulatory system of a living organism. Chapter 3 reveals the total and immediate collapse of the old economy. In our version of history, the Industrial Revolution was a slow, soot-covered climb through the burning of coal and the invention of the internal combustion engine. In this timeline, those steps are completely bypassed. Coal is never pulled from the earth because it is an inefficient and dirty relic compared to the clean, intense, and self-sustaining heat of the liquid flame. The entire concept of a fossil fuel-based economy is obsolete before it ever begins. This leads to a massive economic decentralization. Any region with access to limestone and resinous forests can generate its own thermal power, stripping away the geopolitical leverage held by oil-rich nations in our world. The traditional banking and trade systems, once built on the scarcity of energy, are replaced by a post-scarcity model where heat is a fundamental right, distributed through public conduits like water. Chapter 4 details the transformation of daily infrastructure. Our modern cities are built around the electric grid, a web of copper wires that are easily severed and lose energy over long distances. In this parallel year, 2026, cities are designed as thermal labyrinths. Beneath the cobblestone and basalt streets, a massive network of insulated conduits carries the pressurized Greek fire to every home and factory. This is not just for heating, The intense thermal energy is used to power mechanical cooling systems through absorption refrigeration, meaning that even in the height of a desert summer, buildings remain perfectly chilled by the very fire that warms them in winter. Streetlights are not glowing bulbs, but elegant bronze lanterns housing a small, perpetually burning pilot flame that illuminates the city in a warm amber glow. Inside one of these massive thermal stations, a young technician named Elias adjusts a heavy bronze valve. The air around him thrums with a low, rhythmic vibration as the pressurized liquid pulses through the conduits. He wears thick, treated leather gloves and a face shield of polished volcanic glass. As he turns the wheel, a faint hiss of steam escapes, smelling faintly of pine and old stone. He watches the pressure gauge, a delicate instrument of silver and mercury, as it stabilizes within the safe operating range. To him, the idea of a world powered by invisible electricity is as alien and terrifying as a world without fire. This architectural shift is grounded in hard data regarding thermal conductivity. In this timeline, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology focuses its research not on silicon chips, but on the molecular stability of heat-resistant ceramics and the refinement of the Rankine cycle. Scientists have perfected the process of catalytic cracking within the liquid flame, allowing them to extract a thermal yield of nearly 45 megajoules per kilogram, a statistic that rivals the energy density of modern gasoline, but with a far simpler and more sustainable delivery system. The result is a society that lives in a state of thermal abundance. The environmental impact is equally staggering. Because the combustion of Greek fire is a high-temperature, complete chemical reaction, the carbon output is significantly lower than the smoky, incomplete burning of coal or wood. The atmosphere remains clear, and the grand basalt cathedrals of this world do not wear a coat of industrial soot. The oceans are clean, as there are no massive oil spills from tankers. The liquid is too valuable and too carefully contained within the high-pressure bronze hulls of the transport fleet. Humanity has achieved a level of industrial sophistication that feels ancient and eternal. A civilization of fire and stone that looks back at our timeline of plastic and wire with a sense of profound confusion. We chose a path of fragmentation and fragility, while they chose the path of the unyielding, eternal flame. This grand escalation of human capability does not stop at the city walls. As the centuries march forward in this parallel timeline, the geopolitical landscape of the entire planet would be fundamentally redrawn around the mastery of the liquid flame. In our world, power is measured by the control of narrow shipping lanes and deep oil wells. In this divergent reality, the world is unified by the Byzantine Thermal Union, a global confederation defined by the reach of the Great Bronze Pipelines. Nations would no longer compete for the fleeting dominance of black gold, but would instead integrate into a singular, interconnected thermal Silk Road. Geopolitical borders would definitely shift to follow the natural geological strata of resinous forests and limestone deposits. The control of these vital organic and mineral resources would lead to a monumental period of global stability. Because the energy is distributed through a permanent, physical infrastructure of stone and bronze, the incentive for fleeting, high-mobility warfare would be almost entirely erased. A nation cannot easily steal a subterranean thermal grid, and so the very nature of human conflict would undergo a profound transformation. The evolution of warfare in this timeline would be as terrifying as it is majestic. Without the discovery of gunpowder or the reliance on ballistic projectiles, the concept of a modern military would remain rooted in the mastery of thermodynamics. Instead of the chaotic, explosive violence of our world, warfare would evolve into a science of atmospheric thermal control. Large-scale defense grids would be established, capable of projecting high pressure, ionizing curtains of the refined liquid flame into the sky. These would create impenetrable thermal barriers, effectively neutralizing any attempt at aerial or maritime invasion. The military would not focus on the destruction of the enemy, but on the absolute containment of heat. Soldiers would become engineers of thermal equilibrium, wearing suits made of multi-layered basalt fiber and silvered ceramic plates to reflect the intense caloric output of battlefield siphons. A conflict in this world would not be a matter of bullets and shrapnel, but a calculated struggle to disrupt the pressurized flow of the enemy's energy. This shift would create a global military doctrine based on unyielding defense rather than rapid expansion, leading to an era of monumental peace enforced by the sheer, terrifying intensity of the flame. This shift in technology would trigger an equally profound psychological metamorphosis in the human species. In our timeline, we have become a society of the disposable and the temporary. We build with plastic and wire, expecting our tools and our infrastructure to fail within a few decades. We live in a state of constant, anxious acceleration. But the citizens of this fire-based civilization would think in terms of the eternal. When your entire world is powered by a substance that has remained unchanged since the dawn of the empire, your perception of time begins to mirror the unyielding strength of bronze. Human attention spans would definitely lengthen as the society focuses on the long-term maintenance of their permanent thermal conduits. There would be a deep, spiritual connection to the elemental force that provides both life and protection. The flame would be viewed not as a commodity to be consumed, but as a sacred, living legacy to be guarded. This would manifest in an architecture of monumental permanence, where cities are built to last for millennia, and every technological advancement is measured against its ability to survive the test of deep time. The frantic, nervous energy of the information age would be replaced by a calm, investigative pursuit of chemical and material perfection. The ultimate technological peak of this divergent path would be found in the darkest and most hostile environment on Earth, the deep ocean. Because the chemical properties of Greek fire allow it to burn with unyielding intensity, even when completely submerged in water, humanity would definitely look toward the sea not as a barrier, but as a vast frontier for expansion. By the year 2026, this civilization would have established the abyssal domes, massive subterranean colonies located on the floor of the Mediterranean and the Atlantic. These cities would be anchored to the seafloor, constructed from ultra-dense reinforced basalt and heat-resistant transparent ceramics. The domes would be illuminated and heated by colossal central thermal pillars, where the liquid flame reacts with the surrounding seawater to generate a perpetual, self-sustaining cycle of heat and oxygen. This is grounded in the hard science of electrolysis and thermal decomposition. By using the intense heat of the flame to split water molecules at extreme depths, these colonies would have an endless supply of breathable air and industrial hydrogen. Within one of these abyssal cathedrals, a woman named Elena stands before a massive, curving window of polished volcanic glass. Outside, the crushing darkness of the Atlantic Trench is pushed back by the steady emerald glow of the thermal pillar. She watches a bioluminescent creature drift past the heated barrier, her face illuminated by the flickering light of a technology that was supposed to be lost 1,000 years ago. To her, the crushing weight of the ocean is not a threat, but a silent companion to the eternal flame. This expansion would be further supported by advanced material science, focusing on the development of basalt fiber composites that possess a tensile strength exceeding that of modern carbon steel. Researchers at the Neo-Byzantine Academy would have perfected the process of using the liquid flame to melt and spin volcanic rock into structural fibers, creating a world where every building and every vessel is as durable as the Earth itself. The energy density of the refined formula, which according to independent chemical models would reach nearly 50 megajoules per kilogram, allows for the propulsion of massive, heavy, hulled vessels through the water with unprecedented efficiency. These ships would move across the globe like floating fortresses of heat and light, their wakes perpetually boiling as the thermal engines interact with the cold sea. The terrifying cosmic truth that this civilization eventually realizes is that they have become the masters of a primordial energy that mirrors the very hearts of stars. They would not look up at the sky with the desire to escape a dying or depleted planet. Instead, they would view the universe through the lens of their own thermal mastery. They would see the stars not as distant points of light, but as celestial siphons of the same eternal fire they have learned to contain. This realization would lead to a profound sense of cosmic belonging. They would understand that they are not the accidental survivors of a chaotic history, but the intentional architects of a future that was forged in the bronze siphons of Constantinople. They would reach the zenith of their development, not by abandoning their past, but by perfecting the single, ancient secret that allowed them to transcend the limitations of the cold and the dark. They are the keepers of the light, a civilization that turned a weapon of war into the unyielding heart of a global, and eventually, a planetary empire. As the emerald glow of the abyssal domes fades, we are pulled back into the cold, familiar reality of our own 2026. Our world is built on the lightning we have trapped in copper wires and the black oil we pump from the crushing depths of the earth. We have achieved incredible speed, but we have sacrificed the monumental permanence of the ancient world. Our modern cities are webs of fragile plastic and silicon, susceptible to the slightest tremor in our global supply chains or a single failure in our electrical grids. We look back at the haunting mystery of Greek fire, and we see only a crude incendiary, failing to realize that it represented a completely different branch of human potential. The disappearance of that liquid flame was a turning point that defined our entire species. We traded the unyielding strength of basalt and bronze for the temporary convenience of the disposable. We are the children of a timeline that chose the path of fragmentation over the path of the eternal. But as we stand in our modern cathedrals of glass and steel, we must ask ourselves if we are truly the masters of our environment, or if we are merely the latest inhabitants of a world that has forgotten its most powerful secrets. We might not lack the genius to elevate humanity. We might have simply inherited a timeline where the fragile systems of the past were not yet ready to embrace the light. What do you think about this hypothetical timeline? Do you believe the rumors of this ancient chemical mastery hold any truth? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through the multiverse of history, please hit the like button and subscribe to Timeline Divergence for more uncovering of the paths we never took. Until next time, stay curious and keep watching the timelines.